So what is negotiating and how do you effectively negotiate? Today we're going to cover that. But before we do, Jack Handey is famous for having said, walk a mile in someone's shoes. That way you're a mile away and you've got their shoes. Now you may be wondering, what in the world, Jason? What does that have to do with negotiating? And you'll find out towards the end of this episode. But to begin, I wanted to cover some things that really stand out in this world of negotiating. First, what is a negotiation? Now, Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People, talks about how to negotiate, and he calls it win-win or no deal. So when you're negotiating, you're trying to figure out, okay, we've got maybe 2 different organizations, 2 different parties, 2 different people. We're trying to figure out what is a situation where both of us can come together and we're both going to feel like we got to win. And if we can't do that and we can't come together and both of us feel like we're being elevated and our positions are better and we're getting what we want out of the situation, then we should just drop it all and not do any kind of a deal. If you do anything when one party wins and the other loses, you're never going to have a good long-term relationship. So based on that, negotiating is the art of coming together and helping multiple people or organizations figure out a way that all parties involved can be in a better position because of this agreement that they're coming to. Now, Chris Voss, who is a former FBI hostage negotiator, wrote a book called Never Split the Difference. Talks a lot about negotiating and how to come to terms with people. Now, his is a slightly different approach, but one of the things he talked about is he says the word no is not the end. It should be considered the beginning. And that's the beginning of our conversation. And each time you reach a no, it's an opportunity and it's the beginning for a new pivot or an adjustment or a shift. So don't think of no as the end of the conversation. Think of it as the beginning of a change of direction. Now, that was just one of the tips from his book. Tremendous book. He also talks about mirroring what other people say, and he also shares so many other tips and weaves his stories of experiences he's had as a hostage negotiator right in to the pages of the book. Really an engaging book. Highly recommend it. It's a great read. Highly recommend it. It's a great read. Another trick, and we'll maybe dive into this a little bit in a couple seconds here, but he talks about getting people, instead of saying you're right, which puts them on the defensive, he says, have them say that's right. So that's another little strategy that you can implement as you're getting into negotiating and trying to work out these deals, is figure out how to get people to that point. Now, one of my favorite all-time books was one by Herb Cohen. The guy is a very talented writer. The book's called Negotiate This. And for me, my big takeaway when I read that book is when you're negotiating, you have to be in a position where you do care about the situation, you care about the outcome, you care about what you're potentially going to get, but you can't care so much that it ruins the negotiation. So again, another great book, highly educational and highly entertaining. So probably 20 years ago, I was listening to this master of sales, and he was giving this little presentation to a small group of us. And he said that this one thing that he's incorporated into his sales, and he said, this is the one thing that you should really take away. And it's when people are putting up objections or stating concerns, you can say, oh, okay, so if we could fix that one thing, whatever that concern is, would that make you want to buy? Or in our case, for negotiating, if you'd say, if we could fix that one thing, would that make the deal? And if they say no, you know you've got to keep working and you've got to keep digging. But if they say yes, you're done. You found the root problem, and now it's just a matter of how do we solve that root concern or root problem. Now, Herb Cohen, back in his book, Negotiate This, he talks about how kids are the masters at negotiating. And I totally agree. It's like kids are pre-wired to be good at negotiating. And as adults and as we get older, we just get it beaten out of us. But so many of the principles and strategies that little kids employ can be used in a refined way. Now, I'm going to share from my own experience a few things that have helped me a lot in trying to negotiate with people and come to win-win situations that Stephen Covey talks about. The first one that I love to implement is I like to sit there and listen while people are talking. And then when they get done making their statement, I will repeat back to them and say, so I think I heard you say, and then I'll summarize what they said and repeat it back to them. And then I'd say, is that right? And oftentimes they'll either affirm that's right, or they'll dive in slightly different direction or go someplace else. And what they're really saying to me is, Jason, what you said is good, but my real concern is moving over in this direction. And as we kind of hop from lily pad of concern to lily pad of concern to lily pad of concern, that's building within myself an understanding of who they are. Going back to that concept of walking a mile in someone's shoes, I can't truly walk a mile in their shoes, not in a way that would be beneficial to them. What I can do is I can first take that step to listen, to understand, to get to know them, to understand where they've been, what they're hoping for, what their fears are, what their goals are, what their dreams are. And then as I understand that, I can work to better build a situation for them that will help them accomplish what it is they're truly looking for. Another super easy one that people often overlook is just say, what is it that we're trying to solve for you? What is it you're hoping for? At the end of this, if I did this thing, what are you hoping the end result would be? What's the goal? Why are you doing this? And then just sit back and listen. Truly listen. And if you're looking for a way to be active as a listener, go back and listen to my podcast episode on active listening. So what is it that walking a mile in someone's shoes will do for you? Well, first, you're going to understand them. You're going to understand some of their pains. You're going to understand some of their sorrows. You're going to understand some of their goals, some of their dreams, some of their hopes, some of their fears. Walking a mile in someone's shoes is critical for effective negotiation, because when you're effectively negotiating, you already know what you want. You already know what a win looks like for you. Your big goal, your big task, your big responsibility is to understand that other person or the other party and help them communicate back to you what their wins are so that there's clarity between both organizations. And once you've established that clarity, oftentimes you'll discover the proper roadmap to a win-win situation like Stephen Covey talks about.